I am serious. You're like mind blown.
So I had all the words, just not in the correct order.
I have feelings about this.
Hi friends, and welcome to another episode of the Reading Queens podcast. We are here today to talk about Portal fantasy books, and I'm excited. And also the girls are excited. They're here. Hi, I'm Valia.
I'm Alison.
And I'm Kay.
And I always spring this introduction thing on them so weird. So they're just stare at me for a second like, do we talk now? Anyway, yes, hello. So we are here. We are going to talk books because we love to talk about books. And I love this topic as well. We're going to have a little bit of a discussion about it before we dive into the books. But first, I want to hear all about Alison's life. Tell me everything.
Okay, well, I'm not sure there's much to tell. So obviously we're kind of at the beginning of January, and I feel like, so Christmas is quite a big thing in the UK. Okay. It's bigger in the UK, I think, than in the US. And we had my family over for Christmas, and then we went to my husband's family after Christmas. Then we drove over to my parents for the last couple of days to see some of my friends. So we were literally away busy for that whole time. And we got back on the Monday night, and then we're straight back into work and everything on the Tuesday. And then I was away last weekend. So I feel like I'm still catching up we still have bags of presents under our Christmas tree because we haven't put the Christmas tree down yet or put all the presents away. And yeah, so I feel like I'm kind of catching up on life.
Are the presents opened at least, though?
They are. So my toddler did not open his final present until January the 2nd when we got back. Because he was quite nice. He wanted to open each one and then play with each one rather than I'm sure by next year he'll be just ripping through them. But yeah, and he had a lot of presents. So there were a few which, got left at home when we went traveling. So so I feel like I'm still kind of catching up and kind of getting back into the groove and getting back into my sort of writing routines and things. So it still feels very much like the new year.
That's cute. I always tell people, everybody, my friends will be I haven't taken the tree down yet. It's the first week of January. I'm it's okay. Russian Christmas is January 7th. You are allowed to leave it until then.
So basically, I'm just in tune with,
exactly.
Russian Christmas.
Yeah, it always...
And it's not at all laziness or lack of time on my part.
100% no. You're definitely channeling the Russian Christmas here. So you're good. You're good. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, Kay, how's it going over there?
It's pretty amazing. I have to also talk about Christmas. Sorry for people who wanted to talk about the new year. My new year is boring so far. I haven't done anything. Okay, but for Christmas, we did something different this year that we've never done before. And I don't know if we'll do it again. Probably not every year for sure. But anyway, for Christmas this year, instead of presents, we did an experience.
Oh, okay.
That was what we told our kids. So, my husband he's getting his master's degree this year. And just because of that, his school schedule is really intense. And then also the kids' school schedule is, dictates our life quite a bit. We'll just put it that way. And we usually do little trips, not fancy trips, just little weekend trips with our family all throughout the year. But with my husband's school schedule and with my kids' school schedule, it's been really hard to coordinate and actually have breaks at the same time. So we haven't been able to do the kind of stuff that we usually do. So this year, my husband had a whole week off of work and no school that week. And obviously the kids were out of school the week after Christmas. So we're going on a trip. Anyway, so we did. And it was really fun. Yeah.
So where did you go?
So we went to, it's called Great Wolf Lodge. Some people know what it is. Cool. I didn't know what it was.
I'm gonna be Googling it after we finish recording.
It's they have an indoor water park. So that was the main event. But then they also have other little things. they had this little thing called Magic Quest, where all of our kids got a little magic wand, and you have to go throughout the building, and they have like these little, there's like, find the blue crystals. So you have to like go run around, and then there's like this big blue crystal hanging on the wall, and you like wave your wand at it, and it has this thing, and it's like, received, I don't know, whatever. You have to like go on these quests and stuff.
That's so cute.
So it was a lot of fun. Yeah, my kids really loved it, and I don't know, it was a wonderful, amazing trip, and that's all. It's like very exciting for me, who usually we do nothing. So
I have never been away for Christmas. Like, we've always spent it with family, some family, but I kind of want to one year, just to, I don't know, I just think it would be a really different experience and a really nice experience to like just have your close family kind of around you. And, I don't know, I'd love to like go to Lapland, maybe do Christmas in Lapland, although I might have to like mortgage the house to do it.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of interesting with my family. We did our gift exchange really early, like mid-December. And then we actually did spend Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with my husband's family. So then we just left the day after. Okay. So it was nice. We got the best of both worlds, family and an experience. Yeah. And actually our kids did all get one present, but they usually get more than that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I actually really love that. I feel like I've seen that somewhere, like somebody was talking about it like online or something like that they like did an experience or like an event for their Christmas gift. And I love that because just like Christmas time, New Year's time, it's so busy with like family and you're doing stuff all the time and whatever, but to just like get away and just spend time together like that, I love that, so that's cool. Also cool name for a place, Grey Wolf. Like, it just sounds cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really fun.
I'm glad that you got to go and experience this experience. Christmas experience. Anyway.
How has your week been, Valia?
Good. I am in the midst of like a really fast draft right now. So like I'm trying to finish this sequel and it's been really hilarious for me, okay? So when I wrote the first book last year, I was not in a good place, right, in my head and in my life, and you could tell by the book. I was like, oh, there's no emotions in this book. Maybe I should add some. So now that I'm writing the sequel, it's like the complete opposite. It's just like, instead of being like these hardcore, characters, they're just like emotional babies. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to balance this out. So it's been fun, but also like I need to chill. Anyway, that's all I've been doing. Other than that, and then obviously we had our Christmas, Russian Christmas, which we didn't do anything for, but it was just like nice to not do anything. Like I gave myself a day off, so that was great. And I read a book last year. I mean, technically, yes, too.
In last year,
I read one book, and I was very disappointed. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Portal Fantasy. Before we started recording, we did kind of like had a question about what Portal Fantasy is, and I wonder if you guys have listeners, if you have like a specific definition for this. I always thought that Portal Fantasy means that regardless of whether the person is magical or not, they go to a different realm. So like they come to the human world and back. But Kay didn't think so.
Oh, no, I think the way you said it, I would call that portal, but you said it different than you did earlier.
What do you mean? How did I say that?
I think if the human world, our world, is one of the realms, then that's when I would call it portal. Mm-hmm. Although, I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be though, because
I feel it is usually someone from our world going to a different realm.
Right.
Like, I feel like if it was, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the actual definition is, but I feel like if it was people from different like fantasy worlds going between fantasy worlds, that would be fantasy. Like it might be epic fantasy or high fantasy or whatever. I feel like, so like for example, urban fantasy is set in our world. I feel like portal fantasy is someone, and usually a character, a human character, someone from our world who then experiences, who finds a door or a gateway or whatever to another world and steps through that world. Clearly, I have more of a definition in my head than I thought.
Yeah, right.
I have feelings about this.
I also think because I don't know that it has to be contemporary. Like in my head, it doesn't have to be contemporary. But is the world that you're starting in like non-magical? Is it like a human world, even if it's technically, secondary world, or you're not sure if it's the human realm because it's, in the past, medieval times or something. I don't know. But is it like a human-like world with the same rules as our world, even if it's old-timey? And then are they going to a realm where it's magical? That's kind of what I imagine. Non-magical to magical.
Okay, so for me, I don't care if it's or in my mind for Portal Fantasy, I don't care if it's a human going to a non-magical or a magical place. For me, I'm like, it can be a non-human going from the realm to a human realm. So like it's
to a human realm too, but there's still a human world that's
right.
non-magical.
Yeah. So like there's magical and non-magical, and the non-magical is our world, however else we create it.
I think our world, it can be historical, because actually the book I read for this podcast is historical, and I think you could also stretch it to be maybe like alternative history,
right?
So like Philip Pullman's Northern Lights series is, so that's Portal Fantasy, and there's like another world, but the main world of the book is an alternate version of England,
right? Okay, so let's talk about The Cruel Prince, right? Like that would be Portal Fantasy, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
so but doesn't it start in the Fae realm and then she
No, it starts in the human.
It starts in the human realm.
Yeah, when
and they go
in the prologue when
her
her parents are killed.
Oh.
In the very first thing that you read
is her being taken to the Fae world. So it starts here.
No, not her being taken.
Yeah.
Her parents being murdered right in front of her.
Okay. Anyway, moving on. It's been a very long time since
I just
I've read
looked
that.
it up. I just looked up the definition on Google. So let's see what Google says.
Yes, please tell us.
Portal fiction is a subgenre of speculative fiction, sci-fi and fantasy, centering on characters that move from their present reality to another world via a portal of some kind. So, yeah, it does not say anything about magic or non-magic, but just their present reality to another world.
That's pretty broad.
It is very broad.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I guess it depends too, because if sci-fi, if they like sliders, like would that be a portal sci-fi?
What is sliders? I don't know that.
Do you know? Are you serious?
I am serious.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry.
You're like mind blown.
I just had a shock. I'm like, what? It was a show in the 90s, and it was about a kid, like a teenager, who created this device that opened portals, and so then he got pulled in, and a bunch of like people got pulled in with him. So it was like a against their will found family, and they were traveling through these portals trying to get back home. So it's kind of like a Quantum Leap-esque, where it was like different worlds, but at the same time it was just them opening up this portal and showing up, and they had like a timer on the remote, and the portal would only open up when the timer goes off. And so like if you're not where the timer is going off, or you're not there, like you get left behind. And I was obsessed with this show, okay?
But it starts out in our world, though.
It does, yes, because he's like, they're all human, and so they're here like in our world, and he is just like creating this thing in his basement, and it's actually Jerry O'Connell, I think his name is, or O'Donnell, and then like the actor, yeah, and it has like a bunch of like big name actors in it, and I love that show, and it was like on for 4 seasons, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I watched it in Russia, and then I watched it here when I came here, but yeah, so like that would be Portal technically because they go from, from our world to a different reality.
Well, according to
Google.
Google's definition, it can be sci-fi or
Yeah.
fantasy. That's interesting.
That is very interesting.
I mean, that makes sense, I guess, yeah.
So portal fantasy can be sci-fi.
Well, it just said
Portal.
portal. It
Or would
didn't
you
call
say
it
portal?
portal. It called it
Okay.
portal fiction. I think
So
portal
fiction.
fantasy.
So maybe that is
would be
split into
fantasy.
portal sci-fi
Yeah.
and portal
So we're going to
fantasy
focus on the
then.
fantasy.
If we're being really pedantic.
Yeah, we're doing Portal fantasy here. So there we go.
Who knew that half our discussion would be on the definition of portal fantasy?
I kind of like not looking it up beforehand just so that we can
I
have
know.
this discussion,
Let's just have our thoughts. We're right, and then then we'll maybe see what Google thinks if we're feeling
Yes,
like it.
Exactly. So if you guys have a different definition, do let us know. I am so curious to see what you think a portal fantasy is. But we are going to talk about some books now. We are going to start with Alison. She's going to start us off with her book. So go for it.
Okay, so I actually love portal fantasy books, and I always have. So the book I chose to read was The 10,000 Doors of January, which is, so it's a historical portal fantasy. It's set around the turn of the 20th century, so around kind of 1900 to 1910. It does kind of cover a little bit of a period of time, and it's weird because it's kind of got a book within a book. So the concept is, so the main character, the protagonist, is a girl called January Scalar, who lives with her benefactor / guardian, who is her father's boss, and her father basically travels a lot and steals artifacts for Mr. Locke, who she lives with. And one day she finds this strange book which carries the scent of other worlds, and the book is called 10,000 Doors, and it tells this story of how the world has 10,000 or multiple doors in it which lead to other worlds. And the narrative is sort of split. It jumps between her life and the things going on in her sort of present day life, and then the story within the book. And I don't want to give any spoilers, so I'm not going to say too much, but basically those two narratives end up coming together. And January ends up being this quite kind of special person and has a kind of unique gift. It's really hard to talk about it without giving spoilers, but I really enjoyed it. I do actually quite enjoy. I don't think I really realised it was historical fiction when I picked it up, but I do enjoy historical fiction. I really enjoyed the characters. And how the kind of narrative developed and the mystery, and I clearly wasn't like, my brain was not really on form, because I was like, when the reveals came, I was like, oh yeah, I probably should have guessed that like 5 chapters ago. But I think I was just like absorbed in the book and enjoying it. It's really like nicely written. I really love the concept of having these doors to different worlds, and I think the only thing which I might have liked, because it sort of talks, I think when it's introduced, it talks about like the worlds of, so all those stories that you have, like all kids' stories. So it mentions like Narnia and what are the other, like Alice in Wonderland. And it's like, actually, they're not stories, they're real, because, these are real tales, and all the myths and legends, there are doors to all these different places, which are talked about in myths and legends. And I kind of wish that some of the worlds they had talked about in more detail in terms of the characters that actually visited were some of those worlds, because I think that would have just been, I don't know, it just would have been really kind of nostalgic touch to it.
That makes sense.
But apart from that, it was a really fun read.
It's a standalone, right?
Yes, yeah, it's
Did
totally
you read?
standalone.
Is this your first Alex book? It's Alex Harrow, right? That's the author.
Oh yeah, sorry, I should have said. Yeah, so it's by Alex E. Harrow, and yeah, I haven't read any of hers before.
Did you say what time period it was? Historical? Like, I know it's
Yeah,
historical, but like...
So it's turn of the sort of 20th century. So it's like 1901 to 1910.
Oh, okay. So not too far back in history.
And it has, there is a lot of stuff around how women are treated in society and people of colour are treated in society, which kind of plays into it. And so the main character is both of those. So she's a young woman and she's a person of colour, and one of her friend slash not governess, not guardian. Anyway, this lady that her dad hires to kind of, I think she's called a nursemaid, but January's too old for a nursemaid at that point. So companion, I guess. She is a black woman as well, and the sort of love interest is an Italian boy. So there's it's interesting, yeah, and there's definitely part of the narrative in terms of how poorly they are treated by, white men essentially. So that comes through. But yeah.
Wow, looking at the cover, I always assumed it was contemporary, and I'm like, this sounds like my kind of book, man. I gotta get this.
I don't feel like, if you're not into historical fiction, I don't feel like it's so rooted in that you would not enjoy reading it.
Oh yeah, well, personally, I would much rather read historical than contemporary. Contemporary, I was like, yeah, I'm never reading that. but now that I know his
you should pick it up then.
Like, ooh.
I actually bought it based on the cover. I found it in I think I was in New York, and I found it on like a shelf, and I'm like, ooh, this is so pretty. And then all I knew about it is that they're like multiple realities, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I have it. It's over here. It's right next to Once Future Witches, which is her other book that I haven't read yet. But they're both really pretty covers.
It does have a really pretty cover. Yeah,
I do
it is a beautiful
love the cover.
Yeah,
which is why I thought about getting it. But you know me, I actually, maybe you don't know this, but I never read the book descriptions. I never read the back of the book. I never read anything, okay? Like,
you literally buy just on the cover.
Yes, or if I hear things like, what Alison just described about how cool the book is, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll read that. Like, I like going in with as little knowledge as possible, because I'm just weird. So
I know. I tried that with my last read, and anyway, this is not a ranty episode. Okay, Kay.
You've mentioned it twice now, though, Valia. I feel like you have to tell us what it is at least.
I can't. Okay, it is so well loved. I cannot mention it. I can't. Anyway,
okay. You're telling us
yes,
after.
I'm just like enraged because I had to go put it back on my shelf right before the episode, and I'm like, anyway, Kay, let's talk about your book.
Well, then, moving on from that.
Don't mind me, okay?
Okay, so I read The Iron King by Julie Kagawa. I actually read the entire series. Well, the first 4 books.
Okay.
She's like expanded it since then.
Yeah.
So there's the first 4 books, and then there's like more from a different person's perspective for like another 3 books, and then she's right. Anyway, it's a very long series. So if you're really into it, get excited. Because okay, so this is an older one, and it's fae. I feel like right now the Portal books that we're getting are all fae, which is awesome because I love fae. So I mean, awesome for me. Anyway, so this one actually does start in our world, and it's contemporary. So I know what you're thinking, but you hate contemporary. Yeah, I do, but I still read it because I knew it was Portal. So
oh my goodness,
I usually avoid the contemporary Portal too. I do read contemporary sometimes. All right, I do sometimes. And I actually did enjoy this one quite a bit. Although Julie Kagawa, her writing is just, I just like her as an author a lot. So, yeah. One thing, I know that we've talked about this before, so I won't say this too much, but the world building is so good. Okay, anyway, moving on from the world building. If you're into world building, this is your series, man. Actually, Julie Kagawa is your author.
Yeah.
She's so good at world building. So, anyway, there's the main character, and she is just going to high school, and of course her life is, just boring, regular high school. And then one day her little brother gets kidnapped, and she has to go, and then she finds out that there's fae, and her best friend is actually fae. He's been pretending to be a human this whole time, and he's been watching over her, and she's like, what? Anyway, so then she goes to the Fey world because she has to save her brother. And I asked if I was allowed to say this part because it's hard to explain the plot without it. I'll try and be vague, okay? I feel like I can't be that vague. So just, if you guess, the book is old, I'm sorry, okay? Sorry for giving away this little bit of a spoiler. It's still good.
I mean, it's like one of the most common tropes you come across, right?
Yeah. It's basically my favorite trope. It's not basically. It is my favorite trope. It's my favorite. Okay, I love it. So she gets to the Fey world, and basically she figures out that she's really important in the Fey world. And she... Anyway, also Fairy is dying. I'm trying to not say too much, okay? She's really important.
I mean, human girl has to save the Fey world, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, also the Fey world is dying, so she kind of has to figure out a way not just to save her brother, but to save this. It becomes her duty kind of to save the Fey world. Also, there's a love triangle between her best friend and then this other hot Fey prince that she meets while she's there. It's very tropey, which is great. Like, I'm not ragging on that. I loved it. I'm trying to think, like, how much is from this first book and how much is from the other books. Just, if you like Fey and you like Portal, it's very fun. It's just a great book and series.
I did love the world building. I only read the first book. I think the world building was definitely the highlight for me. I loved her world building.
Yeah, she's so good at like...
And most of the book is set in fairy, isn't it, I think? So if you're not a fan of contemporary fantasy, then actually get through the first few chapters and you're pretty much in fairy, I think, for most of the rest of it.
I will say there are some like relationship-y and like drama kinds of things that are were more common at the time it was written than are as common now. Like the queen is really mean to her. And there's like the mean girls trope and some of those things that we've kind of moved past a little bit in our books now are kind of prevalent, but it's a good time. It's great.
I love those books. I need to reread them. It's been so long, but I always recommend them when people look for Fae books. I'm like, read this one. It's different than what you're reading now, but it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, she did a really great job making her Fae very, like the rules are really clear, her Fae are unique from other Fae, but they still totally feel like Fae. It's the world building, man.
We're fans. I know. I really actually really love her writing. She has that vampire series too that I really like. I don't know. She just does a good job at just immersing you in the whatever world she's writing, which is really cool. And
yeah. Oh, I was gonna say one other thing. There's a cat who can talk.
Oh, I like the cat.
He's really fun.
True.
It's just very, very fun with the cat. It's like the cat is a fake creature, so it's like, anyway.
He's a cat Sith, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yep. I love
really
the fake creatures. Okay, so while we're talking about Fae, I want to talk about Joanna's new book. Comes out January 18th. And that one has so many Fae creatures. Like she went and did her research. It's, what is it? Courting Fae of Fae and Thieves? Of Crown and Thieves? Can somebody tell me the name of it? I just read it and I can't remember it. Anyway, but that one actually, now that you guys were talking about the portal stuff, so in the book, she mentions the portal to the human realm a couple of times. They never go there, but one of her ladies' maids that like helps her get dressed actually is from the human realm, and it's like medieval times or something like that. So the main character talks to her about the human realm and how she like came over and what's the difference. So I feel like maybe they'll be going to the human realm in the next book, but it's really good. If you guys like Fae books, you should check it out. It's the first book, I think, in the trilogy. I don't know how many books.
And it is a spin-off of her other Fae series, which is contemporary portal fantasy. So her other Fae series, it does start in our world and it's our time.
Yeah.
And then they go to this same fairy world. So
Yes.
this, her one that's coming out now, it takes place before.
Right.
So that's interesting. The human world is in medieval times, because I didn't realize that it was like that big of a time difference in between the two series.
Yeah. I was actually surprised too when the girl said, and she started like describing where she was from. I was like, oh wait, like this is like way more like back than I thought it was. So yeah, it was really interesting. Sometimes that like, it's really interesting to me to read portal fantasy sometimes, especially when it comes to Fae, because like Fae has different time, right, than like the regular, or any portal really you go to has a different time than our regular world. And writing it is always fun because you have to really figure that out. But Hanna's books, the Glass Gate, her Cinderella retelling, like they spend a lot of time back and forth between the human realm and the fairy world, and she always like mentions the time because the time is so different in both.
Yeah, you always have to have really careful rules
Yeah.
in portal fantasy, for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to do. My Skaska Chronicles, it started out in the human realm and then went to the Russian fairy tale world. And I struggled with time on that one for sure. I was like, wait, Gemma's going back to the human world. How long is that going to be? Like, she's going to be like 30 years old when she comes back or whatever, because, the Fae time in my world is like, super slow. But anyway, I just always find that very fascinating.
I think it's cool too, because if you read, the myths and the folklore that, all these Fae stories kind of came from, the original myths and stuff, they have definitely different time, but it goes both ways. Like sometimes time is faster in fairy and sometimes time is slower in fairy. And there are different myths and, little stories that go both ways. So I think it's really cool. I love to see all the different ways the authors handle time.
I have just remembered that when I was drafting my Fae book, I never really figured that out. So I just put that on my list of I drafted 80,000 words and put that on my list of things to figure out.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're welcome, I guess.
Sometimes I hate past me.
Yeah, we do that to ourselves for sure.
But just to make sure we've got the title right, so Joanna's book is Courting Fae, Thieves and Crowns.
So I had all the words, just not in the correct order.
Yeah.
Yes, I highly recommend. It was really good. If you like, especially if you like The Selection and The Bachelor and Fae, like all of that together that's what we get. And she does actually go in and do a lot of Fae creatures. You get a lot of those in there, which I thought was really cool, and sometimes skipped over. I think the other Fae creatures, are skipped over in books. So it was really cool to see them on page and what she does with that. So yeah, that's what we're doing. Do you guys have anything on your TBR next? Do you know what you're reading next or reading currently? Ellie, do you have anything?
I know what I'm reading next because it's my book club book and I can't remember what the title is, but it's a chick lit type one, which is not my usual read, but it's for my local book club. So yeah, so we'll see, but it'll be nice. I guess it'll be light and fun, so that'll be good. And then I'm also reading the Sandman graphic novels, which I'm really enjoying. So I have literally never read a graphic novel before this, and one of my friends is obsessed with the Sandman. She bought all the comics when so I think they were from the 90s, I think maybe, when they came out.
Sounds about right.
And she was these are my most precious possessions that I am lending to you. She's I went without food when I was doing my PhD so I could buy these.
My goodness.
So I just have to be so careful with the time, a little bit feeling the pressure. But I sat down and read the first 2 episodes over Christmas and really enjoyed it. I think I actually enjoyed it more than the TV series because I'd seen we haven't quite finished the TV series. I think part of the thing is that I struggle with violence more on TV. I can deal with violence a lot easier in books and graphic novels than on the TV. And if you've watched or read, then you'll know there is a fair bit of violence in there. Yeah, so I enjoyed that. So I'm looking forward to getting on with episodes 3 and 4.
Nice, fun.
That's so cool, and so cool to have like such a treasured thing that she was willing to share with you. I love that.
I know. I'm just like keeping it out of the toddler's reach.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So I'm reading The Stardust Thief, and I actually have only read the first chapter so far, and I think it's funny because some friends of mine were talking about this book, and they wanted it to have more romance and were frustrated, and I was like, ooh, there's no romance? I want to read that. I do love romance in my books. Okay, I do, but I also love books that have less romance. So I just thought it was funny that they were like, it was horrible because there wasn't enough romance. And I was like, ooh.
Okay, that is not why
this
it
might
was
be for
horrible.
me.
Let's be honest. Okay, anyway. No, I'm excited for you to read it because I like love the different opinions when it comes to readers. Like, I love having the same book that I hate and somebody else loves. Like, I just think it's cool. Like, so I'm really curious to see how Kay, you do with that book. And yes, I am the person who did not like that, in case anybody was wondering. But yeah, so I finished that awful book, and now I'm on to A Crown of Ivy and Glass. And this is the debut, the adult fantasy romance debut by Claire Legrand. Yes. And I did
not her debut, but her debut as adult.
Yes, adult debut.
Yeah, adult fantasy.
So I did not read Legendborn. Legendborn? Is that the name of it?
Furyborn.
Thank you. I always get those two confused. I did not read that trilogy, although I have heard that trilogy reads like an adult book, so I feel like this won't be... Like, sometimes when authors switch genres, they, like, forget that they switch genres oftentimes, and then, especially if they're writing in, like, fantasy romance realm or something like that, and then it's, like, I have trouble kind of connecting because I'm promised one thing and it doesn't deliver kind of thing. So with this one, I feel like since that trilogy is always talked about that it should have been adult, like, I feel like it's not going to be that problem, so I'm just, like, going in with good expectations, without it being like one way or the other. So I'm really excited. I only read the first chapter and I really am enjoying her writing style. So I'm excited to read that next. And yeah, that is all. That is all I have to say about that. Okay, I guess we're done. My brain is like, wait, do I need to do anything else here? And we're done. No.
Have we missed something?
Yeah. But yeah, if you guys let us know what you're reading. If you have a different opinion about Portal Fantasy, also let us know. But make sure to be here next Wednesday. We're going to have a new episode. Before you go, leave us a star rating and a review, please, on your favorite podcast platform. And also follow us on there. Follow us on Instagram at Reading Queens Pod and on Facebook under the same handle. And yeah, just come talk books with us. We love to have these kind of conversations. Obviously, we have a whole podcast about it. So that is all. Have a lovely, lovely day. We will talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.